Welcome to Kevin Dale Photography, where I take you on my journey through photography. On today's episode, we're going to be doing an in-depth review of the Godox Litemons LE300BI. Welcome to today's episode. If you're not familiar with Kevin Dale Photography, we do gear reviews, tips, techniques, and tutorials, and sometimes we dive into film. If any of that sounds appealing to you, click the subscribe button below. For all of you who are coming back to Kevin Dale Photography, welcome back. And for all of you where this is your first time here, at the beginning of every episode, I ask for donations to BIG, which is an organization that helps intellectually disabled adults adapt to jobs in the real world. But to the subject of today's episode, so here is the Godox Litemons LE300BI. After doing some research, the light is in fact called Litemons, but since it's a made-up word, feel free to call it whatever you want. Litemons, if you're French, or Litemons, like don't forget to take your vitamins. Okay, it's Litemons, but I did look it up in the dictionary and it's a non-existent word, so call it whatever you want. And the model here is the LE300BI. The 300 stands for 300 watts and the BI stands for bicolor. 300 watts is pretty bright for video work, and the ability to be bicolor allows the user to match this light to the color temperature of their scene. This is important because if you're shooting at sunset, you want your source to look like sunset, but maybe on a cloudy day, you don't want this light to look like it's shooting at sunset. So, having the ability to dial in your color temperature is an important feature. Another note about 300 watts is that you'll typically be able to shoot stills and freeze motion. You can pretty much get your shutter speed around 1/250th or 1/500th of a second, and you can keep your ISO at a reasonable level. Now, my first impressions of the construction quality of this light is that it's excellent. It's robust, and for a light that is being marketed toward an entry-level market, I see some features on here that you'd normally only see on more expensive lights. I can already tell that this light is pretty easy to use, as I didn't even open the manual, and within seconds I knew my way around the light. So, definitely a promising start if you're watching this video and you're new to LED lights. I want to thank Godox for hooking me up with this light for review, but like all of my reviews, my opinions are going to be my own, and this review is going to be completely independent. I'm going to tell you what I like and I don't like about the Litemons LE300BI, and Godox isn't going to see this review until right now, just like all of you. Like all of my reviews, we will take this light out into the real world and we will use it on projects. But before we get started, let's go over the specs. The Godox Litemons LE300BI is a bicolor 300 watt LED mono light. This fixture comes in both black and white finishes. It has a color temperature range of 2800 to 6500 Kelvin. Its two color modes are daylight and tungsten. It's compatible with the Godox Light app. It has a CRI rating and TLCI rating of 98. It features a Bowens mount for compatibility with a galaxy of modifiers. It has built-in DMX for easy integration to professional light setups. Its dimensions are 10.31 by 9.41 by 6.22 inches or 261 by 239 by 158 millimeters. It comes in at a weight of 6.4 pounds or 2.9 kilograms, and it comes in at a street price of $299 US. So the operation is pretty straightforward. You just push this power button on the lower right, it turns on. And now you can see on the left, you have your dim, and on the right, you have your color temperature. The big knob that you see on the right-hand side adjusts the values up and down, and then when you push this same big knob, it toggles between allowing you to select your color temperature and your dim amount. Pretty straightforward. Moving on to the mode button, when you push on that, it allows you to toggle between CCT and effects. And as you can see right here, pretty standard effects. You got things like paparazzi, lightning, fireworks, etc. And these effects are CCT, so some of them have warmer color temperatures and some of them have cooler color temperatures. Moving on to your menu button. When you push this menu button, you can scroll between all your major menu options, things like your DMX control, your Bluetooth, your fan control, your display brightness, the language between Chinese and English, and so on and so forth. And then if you want to pair your device, you simply push the Bluetooth button at the bottom. And then underneath the unit, you'll find a USB Type A where you can update your firmware. To be honest, I've never done this on an LED light before, but if you need to do it, that's where you do it. And that's really how you operate this device. There's not a whole heck of a lot to it. Now let's go to my studio and I'll show you how to use the app.
Okay, so you saw me demonstrate how to use the LE300BI from the rear. Now I'm going to show you how to do it from the app. So I'm going to go ahead and open up the Godox Light app. I'm pretty dark right now because I have it turned off. I'm going to go ahead and turn it on now. So this is what it gives you. It's at about 4,000 Kelvin right now. Maybe a little bit warm. It is an overcast day. And I did expose for the neighborhood behind me. I'm at f7.1, so that'll give you kind of an idea of the settings of what you need to be at to have this guy work as a video light. Now, I would say 4,000 is a little bit too warm with this overcast. I'm gonna take it up to like 15, we'll go right around 6,000 Kelvin. And that more or less matches the ambience of my scene. So this is with the rear facing umbrella and it's at 100% power. Now I'm going to show you what it looks like with the reflector that comes with it, and we can see what our f-stop is at and how bright it can get, because it can probably get just as bright as a bright sunny day. Okay, so here it is at 100%, and that is just simply too bright. So I'm going to take it down to 10%, right there. It's actually at 9%. And that actually looks a little better. So when you turn around that light and you use the reflector that comes with it, you can get this thing all the way down to 10% and it'll light me up just fine on an overcast day while I'm in the shade. If the sun were out right now and it were super bright, you're only talking 2 or 3 stops more light. At 10% with this light, you're easily able to accommodate that. So this is definitely a bright enough light to use in this kind of situation. But I am here at my studio. I want to see how this light works. I'm going to do some stills photography. I'm going to do a little bit of video work. I'm even going to shoot a little bit of film with this guy today. I'm going to have some ISO 400 T-Max Kodak black and white film. I just want to see if this guy is bright enough to handle that, because I like to use continuous light sometimes when I shoot stills with film. So without further ado, let's get started.
Alright, so 400 speed film on the Hasselblad seemed to go just fine with this Litemons LE300BI. Now let's do some digital shots on my Lumix S1 R2. right, so that was an example of both video and stills as a hybrid using this LE300BI, and I think it did a fantastic job of both, but I know a lot of you are eyeing this for video, so let's go heavily into video. I had a local artist here in Austin who wanted me to shoot some promotional work for his upcoming album, so I did some video work with this LE300BI, and as you can see right here, I think the results were amazing. All right, I think I've seen enough. Let's go back to my YouTube studio and let's talk about what I liked and didn't like about the Litemons LE300BI from Godox. All right, I've had plenty of time to use this light. I'm pretty sure Godox is wondering where the review is because they sent this light to me a few months ago. But the more time I get to spend with it, the better understanding I have of the product and the more helpful my review ends up being to all of you. So let's talk about the pros and cons of the Litemons LE300BI. And like we always do on this channel, let's start with the areas where I feel like it could have been a little bit better. For a light that boasts that it has DMX ports, there's no DMX cable. I suppose it's reasonable to not know what length someone might need. Additionally, it would add to the cost. Nonetheless, Godox is known for being generous with accessories, and they've included DMX cables in other models of lights in the past. And since that means you have one more thing you need to purchase in order to use a built-in feature, I'm putting that under the cons. I feel like it's becoming a standard for lights at the $300 price point to come with cases. This fixture, however, did not. It just came with a box. And that's a shame because similar lights from companies like Neewer do come with hard cases. Now, Godox started as a budget company. I feel like now they kind of expand across both budget and professional offerings. However, somewhere along the way, I feel like Godox has started to provide less free accessories for their budget offerings. I don't know if it's growing pains or what, but while Godox is making exceptional entry-level products, I feel like they're coming with less accessories than they used to. Definitely something you should keep an eye on with Godox moving forward. I would argue that while the overall price of this light is a pro, if you find yourself not needing a feature like DMX, there is a galaxy of offerings from other companies at much lower prices than $299, and that list includes Godox. They make lights that are less than $299. So if you don't need the DMX feature, I do recommend you look around to see what else is out there. You may end up saving yourself quite a bit of money for the same quality. For some of you, the fact that this is an AC powered light could be a con. It's really only meant to be used indoors in a studio. If you take it outdoors, it would light up your subject pretty well, but you would also be tethered to an extension cord in the process. If that doesn't bother you, then great, but if you're a professional who's used to using V-mount batteries to power your lights, you'll need to look elsewhere. All right, that's really it for the cons. Now let's talk about the pros, of which there were many. Staying on the subject of the power, I actually like the fact that it uses a standard IEC cable and there's not some gigantic oversized power supply hanging off the back. I really don't like when lighting companies try to make the chassis 20% smaller at the expense of some enormous rectangular power supply awkwardly hanging in midair. 100 times out of 100, I would rather take a slightly larger chassis and then house the power inside the fixture itself. And fortunately, that's what Godox does with the Litemons LE300BI. This will always be a pro to me. The light is bright enough to shoot stills and not have to jack up your ISO. As you can see from these examples that I shot, the light gets plenty bright. And keep in mind, I'm using modifiers with a couple layers of diffusion. When you do that, you end up losing a couple stops of light. Despite that, the light was bright enough to where I could raise my shutter speed high enough that my models didn't create motion blur when they moved. Additionally, Medium format film is like $2 a shot, and as I demonstrated, it was good enough for me to use 400 speed film at reasonable shutter speeds that produced great results. That's definitely a pro if you're a portrait photographer who prefers to use continuous light. I found the light reproduced color accurately, and the ability to dial in my color temperature gave me flexibility that was a genuine pro. Being able to accurately match the white balance of your ambience is a must-have for professionals, and the LE300BI passed that test with flying colors. Even though every light at this price point has pretty much the same effects, I liked the onboard effects, and they could be useful for up-and-coming videographers with limited budgets who find themselves needing to integrate special effects into their projects. I found the screen to be pretty easy to read indoors. It's bright enough, the fonts are clear and crisp, and the only limitation I found was that in direct sunlight, it's pretty hard to read, but being that this is an AC only light, you're likely only going to be using it indoors anyway, so I'm putting that under the pros. For those of you who don't like to use phone apps to control your lights, the manual control of this light is super easy. There's not a lot to the light itself. It's the type of light that you really don't need to read the manual to learn to operate. For those of you who do like apps, however, the integration of the Godox Light app is seamless. I've tested dozens of LED lights on this channel. All of them come with their own phone app, and a lot of the phone apps are pretty bad. The Godox Light app, in my opinion, is the best in the business, and this LE300BI seamlessly integrates into it. I use the Godox Light app to run my YouTube studio, so I'm very familiar with how it works. The fact that this fixture is compatible with my favorite phone app for LED lights is going under the pros. If you find yourself needing to integrate this light into a professional lighting console, you can do that. It features both DMX in and out, and you can integrate this onto a professional set or a theatrical setup with no issue because it speaks the universal language of DMX. For a $300 light, having DMX is a genuine pro. And that leads me to my last point, value. Despite the fact that there are dozens of other 300-watt LED lights on the market, this one stands out because it does feature DMX. It does use what I consider to be the most complete and easy-to-use phone lighting app on the market. Those little things matter in a competitive market. You also have a trusted name with a reliable track record. Definitely something to consider. So who should consider the Godox Litemons LE300BI? If you're looking for your first bi-color LED light and you need a decent amount of power, you should definitely consider this fixture. If you're a hybrid photographer who shoots both video and stills, the light is bright enough to accommodate both. Maybe you don't want to make the additional investment in strobes. So who should avoid this light? If you don't see yourself ever needing DMX integration, there are several other lights on the market, including from Godox, that can get this bright, are bi-color, and many of them cost less money. Also, many lights around this price point also come with a hard case. But still, for the money, this Litemons LE300BI is a pretty good value, and if you're interested in picking one up, I'll leave a link in the description below. That does it for today's episode. What did you think of my review of the Godox Litemons LE300BI? Tell me about it in the comments below. Are you going to pick one up? Are you going to go in another direction? Let me know. And if you're a fan of this channel, I humbly ask you to click the subscribe button below. And until next time, I'll talk to you soon. Bye.